My name is Jean-Paul Langlois. I'm a Métis artist living and painting in East Vancouver. To say that I'm a Métis artist, I guess, is a bit of a misnomer because I don't actually attach beads to leather, which, as far as I know, is the real only traditional Métis art, besides maybe making fiddles or jig dancing. But I am a person of Métis descent, and I do create art. If I'm going to claim the Métis, I also need to celebrate my waspiness, which is my other half. My mom's family is Scottish and English. I guess we're talking about my latest series, which is Return to Spirit River, or Meeting the In-Laws as told by my mother, which is a story that my mom's told a lot about when she just got married to my dad, and they went back to northern Alberta to meet his uncle and his family. And they had to drive deep into the wilderness of northern Alberta, down dirt roads, and finally get to a river and call across the river, where apparently my cousins had to jump in a canoe, come pick them up, and take them across the river to a dilapidated house in the woods. And anyway, I just thought the story was hogwash. This sounds ridiculous to me. Sounds like something that a middle-class white woman that had no experience with Indigenous people sort of had made up as a legend in her own mind. But as I've done more research on it and talked to the cousins and stuff, apparently it's true. They lived across the river and did come and pick people up in a canoe. So I'm trying to tell the story in a series of paintings using different characters from 70s sci-fi.
Hi,
Oh, hi.
Sorry.
Come on.
You want to continue where you?
Sure.
Do you remember where you left off?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm trying to reinterpret the story from my point of view. Well, I guess reimagine from my point of view. And I guess I'm telling it kind of like a movie, in that I had to cast it with characters, come up with locations, build sets almost in my mind. So I cast different characters, like Zira from Planet of the Apes as my mom, Bud Spencer from the Spaghetti Western legend as my dad, and then various different character actors as the Indigenous cousins. And I think there's maybe 8 paintings in all. The backgrounds, I've never really painted Canadian landscape before, so I borrowed a lot of that from Group of 7 stuff and different Canadian landscape painters. The cabins I used for it, I've never really painted houses before, so in some of the paintings I used NFB film shorts of Grey Owl, who's the original fake Indian. I don't know if y'all know who he is. It's worth looking up. Or for the sort of biggest piece in it, which is called The Mansion, I featured my own house in Lake Cowichan and just kind of made it look a little bit more dilapidated. I think I was successful in it. It's sort of it's a stretch for me. It's definitely a new way of painting and thinking. It's challenging. It's been fun. I think it's been successful so far. My older paintings, while they're interesting and I think they're provocative, but they sort of ended on the surface. I would put characters together and there'd be tension, but there was really no story, and there wasn't really that connected to me. I mean, I was taking scenes from spaghetti westerns or scenes from samurai movies, and combining these characters, but they weren't really there was no story. It wasn't getting fulfilled. And I think with this new series, I'm going deeper, and it's exploring my own history, my family's history, my relationship to even my country in some ways, which is a lot more interesting.
When did you start painting?
Really early. I've been painting and drawing since I was a kid. I was actually just looking at some old scrapbooks, and it's every year there's a spot where you can say what I want to be when I grow up, and every single year it would be artist. Every once in a while it would be cowboy or policeman or something stupid, but always artists. I got serious about painting when I was probably a teenager, and I've been showing since I was probably 20. But I don't think I really found my voice maybe until the mid-2000s when I started painting for myself. I was living in Lake Cowichan, kind of given up on having an art career. So I was just basically commissioning paintings for my own walls, and I was doing bigger stuff, taking film stills from spaghetti westerns, which is what to me was beautiful and cool, and adding different elements like butterflies or sharks or something. And those were pretty successful, I think, just as paintings. And I started developing that sort of really flattened space, sort of blobby style, I don't know what to call it. Some people say it looks like camouflage or paint by numbers, which I guess it looks like that, but it's a pretty complex system to actually make those, to keep it that flat with that many really bright abrasive colors to just not puke all over each other and ruin the whole painting. So it's harder than it looks. I think it's harder than paint by numbers, I'll tell you that much. So I was doing those spaghetti western scenes. They were quite big paintings, starting to get bigger and bigger, and then I happened across a movie called White Comanche, starring William Shatner. And White Comanche was kind of a revelation. It's not a great movie, but it's William Shatner playing two different roles. He's brothers, twin, or I guess he's just brothers, because one is half Comanche and the other one is full-blood Comanche. The half-blood brother goes back to town and becomes the sheriff, where the full-blood goes back out to the wilderness and becomes this crazy shamanistic, peyote-eating, whiskey-drinking, white woman raping, crazy wild Indian. And of course it comes to a cheesy battle between William Shatner and himself at the end. But it's a really good metaphor for someone who is dealing with their own issues with being half. I mean, it's really a good metaphor for Métis blood, I think. White Comanche. Anyway, what I found from that was these great shots of William Shatner with paint on his face, looking like a classic Hollywood Indian. So did some paintings of that, which were very successful, I think. And that's where the fake Indians thing was born. And then every time I'd watch a movie or a TV show or anything, all of a sudden there'd be a fake Indian everywhere. So the next was Don Knotts, and then Charles Bronson, and just everything I watched there'd be another fake Indian. So I just started painting them all, just for myself. But I started getting some attention for that stuff. And then when I moved to Vancouver, I guess people were paying attention, so I got a bit of a career boost out of it.
Nice.
A wise person who was the person who selected me, she suggested that I do something kind of classic, I guess, what I'm sort of the colors that I'm known for, backgrounds I'm known for. So it's called The Tramplers. It's 4 horsemen. 4 horsemen, I guess you could take that whatever way you want it, but and The Tramplers is sort of about cowboys or just outsiders coming into a new area, not thinking about what they're doing to the people or things or whatever that was there before. Just coming down the hills with cattle or whatever. Just coming coming down out of the hills and destroying what was there before just for profits or for their own enjoyment. Running roughshod all over the town or all over the pristine nature or whatever. I guess it's sort of could be related to gentrification or what's going on in Vancouver right now, but really it's just a shot from a bunch of spaghetti westerns with a nice sunset in the background. I'm pretty happy with it.
It's pretty amazing, man. Can you speak a little bit about where the samurai or maybe the Japanese influence comes from? Or?
I think that the Japanese stuff or the samurai films they're an extension of my interest in spaghetti westerns and westerns, and I mean that's tradition is that westerns were borrowing from samurai films and samurai films were borrowing from westerns. I mean, it's kind of the same story, just a little bit different. It's, the story of. It's often a story about revenge, or the underdog. And they look great on horses, so I just started painting them. It's sort of weird because is it wrong to be painting a culture that's so alien to me? But it's not, because I'm just painting movies, which is not alien to me. That's sort of, I think, what is my hall pass is that I'm not painting the real thing. I'm just always just painting the TV, which is what I'm looking at, right? Or painting the screen.
And when do you paint? Is it like?
Paint every day.
Yeah.
Paint every day. Yeah. I know I was stuck in this apartment painting for the first few years that I moved to Vancouver. I've only been in Vancouver for 4 years, and before that I was living in the woods of Lake Cowichan, toiling in virtual anonymity, hiding in my basement, painting, and I painted a lot back then. I mean, not daily, but certainly, 3-4 days a week, and now it's daily, but it was in this apartment, which was brutal, because, there's always a distraction when you're painting in your home. So now I have a studio. I've had that for a year. Totally changes everything. I could be in my studio 8-10 hours a day, no problem. All I've got is a beer fridge for distraction and some books. If I stop painting, I'm looking at a book, which is, most of them are coffee table books about art or movies or culture. So it's just back to the painting.
And what was the music that we heard in the studio there?
Oh, that was the soundtrack to Zatoichi, the Blind Swordsman, which was a series of samurai movies. It started, I think, in the late 60s. They put out 1 or 2 a year. The original actor was amazing. And then, what's his name? You said beat Takashi. What's his actual name?
Takeshi Kitano.
Yeah, Takeshi Kitano, I guess, did a pretty major release of it in the early 2000s. You always paint with music, or is that just just whatever? Always music. Yeah, I mean, unless I'm so zoned out and so into the Zen moment that I've actually forgotten to put on more music. But yeah, I listen to everything too. Might be hip hop, might be old ska, lots of classical, jazz, weird old French music, just whatever, even old country. Lots of spaghetti western soundtracks.
Great stuff, man. We're almost out of time.
Good.
But is there anything else you want to chat about? Right now, because we're gonna have more opportunity to talk more.
There was this odd thing that I was thinking about the other night when I was asked this question, what I thought about appropriation. And I think the woman who asked it said, it's a topic on everyone's minds or something. So she must have been talking about cultural appropriation. And the first thing that came without even thinking about it was probably a bit flippant. What I said is, if you don't want your artwork or your work appropriated, then maybe don't show it to anybody. Which is kind of maybe it's a heartless and uncautious thing to say, but I kind of feel like that, because whether it's cultural appropriation or just appropriation, or no matter what, it's cultural appropriation, whether it's popular culture or sacred culture. You know, you're borrowing from somebody else's art. And what I wanted to say, and I should have said more clearly and concisely, was people, we're humans, and that's what we do. We appropriate, and we borrow, and we redo, and we remix, and we remake. There's hardly anything original. But if you are going to appropriate something, then do it well, and do it with respect and with the greatest of intentions, because if you don't do it with pure intention, you're going to get busted. You're going to get caught, and people see right through it. So do it well, or prepare for the consequences.